Hello friends, tonight our journey will take us deep into a lost world, a kingdom built not just of stone, but of water. We are not visiting a cold, windswept castle or a drafty medieval hall. Instead, we are traveling to the warm, humid heart of Southeast Asia, to the sprawling, jungle-wreathed plains of the ancient Khmer Empire. We will explore how an ancient Cambodian kingdom mastered the monsoon to build a paradise on earth. This is a story of patient engineering, of divine ambition, and of the slow, gentle, life-giving flow of water. The story moves at the pace of a wide, placid river, so gentle, in fact, that you might not survive this without floating away into a deep and peaceful sleep. So, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a quiet, simple way to help these stories reach others who might be looking for a moment of peace. And as we always do, I invite you to leave a comment, telling me what time it is and where you are listening from in the world. It's a true comfort to know we are all sharing this quiet moment together. Now, turn down the lights, maybe put on a fan for some gentle background noise, and let's begin our journey for tonight. Your world is defined by two relentless forces, the sun and the sky. You are a young rice farmer, and you have just arrived at the outskirts of the great capital city, the sacred heart of the Khmer kingdom. You have walked for weeks from your small provincial village, drawn by tales of a god-king who commands the very heavens, of a city so grand it is a mirror of the celestial world, and of a promise of stability in a land of brutal extremes. For your entire life, you have been a subject not of a king, but of the sky's fickle moods. You have learned that water is both a divine gift and a devastating curse, and it is the promise of taming this paradox that has led you here. You arrive at the worst possible time. It is the end of the dry season, the period known as the Kadoi Kantoi G'day, the kite's tail, when the land is at its most exhausted. The sun is not a warm, friendly orb. It is a white-hot hammer in a pale, hazy sky. The heat is a physical presence, a heavy blanket that smothers the world and drains the will from your body. The great sprawling rice paddies that surround the capital, which you had imagined as a sea of vibrant green, are a cracked and desolate wasteland. The rich earth has been baked by months of sun into a mosaic of grey, curling tiles, the fissures between them wide enough to swallow your hand. The air shimmers with the heat rising from this parched earth, making the distant monumental temples of the capital waver like a dream. The dust is your constant companion. It is a fine, reddish powder, the ghost of the laterite stone used to build the kingdom's foundations. It coats your skin, gets in your hair, and forms a gritty paste in your mouth. Every gust of hot wind lifts it into the air, a choking red cloud that stings your eyes and obscures the sun. The great Tonle Sap, the lake that is the lifeblood of the empire, has shrunk to a fraction of its former self. Where there should be a vast inland sea, there is now an immense, stinking plain of cracked mud, littered with the shells of dead snails. The remaining water is a shallow, murky pond in the far distance, and the fishing boats of the floating villages lie beached and useless on the hardened mudflats. In this season, life shrinks. The world holds its breath, waiting. You see people digging in the dry beds of streams, hoping to find a small pocket of muddy water. The village wells are low, the water they provide rationed and precious. Every day is a prayer for the rains to come, and every day the prayer is answered with the same brassy, silent sky. This is the great thirst, the fundamental challenge of your existence. You look upon this baked, desperate landscape, and you wonder how a paradise could ever be built upon such a fragile foundation. Then, one afternoon, the world begins to change. It starts not with a drop of rain, but with a shift in the wind. The hot, dusty breeze from the north falters, and a new wind, cool and heavy with the scent of salt and damp earth, begins to push in from the southwest. For the first time in months, clouds begin to gather on the horizon. They are not the thin, wispy clouds of the dry season, but great, towering thunderheads, their bellies the color of a dark bruise. A collective sigh of relief and anticipation seems to pass through the land. The world is about to be reborn. The first drops of rain are enormous, splattering into the red dust with a sound like a tiny drumbeat. They leave dark, coin-sized spots on the parched earth. Then another, and another. The smell that rises from the ground is intoxicating, a rich, earthy perfume, the scent of life returning to a thirsty world. And then the sky opens. This is not a gentle shower. This is the monsoon. It is a solid, roaring wall of water that descends from the heavens, erasing the horizon and turning the world into a churning grey spectacle. The sound is deafening, a constant, thunderous drumming on the thatch roof of your small shelter. The rain continues for days, a relentless, life-giving deluge. The cracked earth, once as hard as stone, softens and drinks its fill. The fissures heal. The world turns to mud, a rich, fragrant chocolate-brown soup. The dust is gone, washed from the air, and the sky is a clean, dramatic grey. The jungle, which had been dull and brown, seems to explode with a vibrant, impossible green overnight. And then the great miracle happens. The mighty Mekong River, far to the east, swells with the titanic volume of rainwater flowing down from the Tibetan plateau. It becomes so powerful, so engorged with water, that at the point where it meets the Tonle Sap River, it performs an act that defies logic. It forces the smaller river to reverse its course. Instead of flowing out of the Great Lake, the river now flows violently back into it, carrying the Mekong's muddy, nutrient-rich surplus. You watch in awe as the Great Lake begins to expand. The beached fishing boats begin to float once more. The vast muddy plains disappear beneath the rising waters. In a matter of weeks, the lake will swell to more than 5 times its dry season size, transforming from a large pond into a vast inland ocean, teeming with fish that have been carried in on the flood. Some climatologists and historians still debate the precise environmental pressures, perhaps a series of unusually intense droughts or floods that spurred the Khmer to such a monumental feat of engineering. But as you stand in the warm, driving rain, you understand the core problem in your bones. The kingdom is blessed with an abundance of water, but it is a chaotic and unreliable blessing. You are either starving for a single drop, or you are drowning in a deluge. To survive is to simply endure this violent swing from one extreme to the other. To build a paradise, to create a stable, civilized world, would require something more. It would require a way to capture the flood, to store the monsoon's incredible gift, and to make the water obey not the whims of the sky, but the will of a king. As you look towards the heart of the capital, you begin to see the first hints of this new order. You see the straight, unwavering lines of man-made canals, already channeling the floodwaters. In the distance, you see the immense, perfectly rectangular shape of a vast, man-made lake, a Bare, its surface placid and controlled, already collecting the life-giving rain. This is not the work of nature. This is the work of a powerful, organizing mind. You realize you have not come to a city of stone. You have come to a city of water, a great hydraulic machine designed to tame the seasons. And you understand that your new life will be dedicated to serving that machine, to helping build the paradise promised. The world is soft now, and the air is clean. The weeks of torrential rain have subsided, leaving behind a land saturated with life. The great baked cracks in the earth are a distant memory, healed by the monsoon's balm. The jungle around you is a deep, glistening emerald, and the air is filled with the drone of insects and the sweet, loamy scent of wet soil. The time of waiting is over. The time of frantic survival has passed. Now, the season of work begins. The summons comes not as a written decree, but as a drumbeat that travels from village to village, a human signal passed along the new waterways. It is a call from the God King, a call to all able-bodied men. It is time to sculpt the water. You join a great flowing river of people, a silent army marching not to war but to construction. You walk along the banks of the newly dug canals, their straight, clean lines a stark contrast to the wild, organic chaos of the jungle. You see thousands of others, from every corner of the kingdom, all walking with a quiet sense of purpose towards the heart of the great project. There is no sense of forced servitude. Instead, there is a collective, solemn energy, as if you are all pilgrims heading to a sacred festival. This is your duty, but it is also your honor. You are here to help bring order to the world, to build a monument not just to the king, but to the very idea of civilization. You arrive at a plain so vast it seems to stretch to the ends of the earth, and it is teeming with life. As far as the eye can see, the land is a moving tapestry of tens of thousands of people. It is the largest gathering you have ever witnessed, a city of workers that has sprung up from the mud. The sound is not the chaotic din of a crowd, but a low, rhythmic hum, the sound of a million small, repeated actions blending into one. This is the great labor force of the Khmer Empire, the human engine that will reshape the very landscape. The scale of the organization is breathtaking. Foremen, distinguished by simple colored sashes, move through the crowds, their directions communicated not by shouting, but by a series of precise hand gestures and flag signals that ripple across the plain. Your first assignment is on a canal, a new artery in the kingdom's growing circulatory system. You are given your only tool, a shallow, tightly woven bamboo basket. The work is brutally simple, yet requires a deep, meditative rhythm. You join a long line of men digging into the soft earth. You scoop the rich, heavy mud into your basket, lift it to your shoulder, walk the few paces to the growing embankment, and tip it out. Then you turn, walk back, and repeat. Scoop, lift, walk, tip, scoop, lift, walk, tip. You fall into the rhythm of it. Your mind, at first resistant to the monotony, soon surrenders to the physical repetition. The sun is hot on your back, but the cool, wet mud is a comfort to your hands and feet. You work in a team, and soon your movements synchronize with the men around you. You become a single, multi-limbed creature, a human dredging machine, moving with a hypnotic, trance-like efficiency. You do not speak. The only sounds are the soft splash and squelch of the mud, the whisper of thousands of bare feet on the earth, and a low, shared chant that rises and falls with the effort of the work, a song that seems to have no beginning and no end. As you work, you begin to appreciate the true genius of what you are building. The canal is not just a ditch. You notice the foreman using long, water-filled bamboo tubes with sighting marks, a simple but effective kind of spirit level. They are engineering a gradient so subtle, so slight, often less than a 1-foot drop for every mile, that it is imperceptible to the naked eye. Some hydraulic engineers still puzzle over how the Khmer achieved such precise, sub-degree gradients over vast distances without modern surveying equipment. Yet it is this incredible precision that allows the water to be moved gently and predictably across the entire plain, from the high-ground reservoirs to the furthest rice fields, using nothing but the patient, persistent pull of gravity. After many days on the canals, your section of the work is complete. You are moved to the great project, the heart of the entire enterprise, the reason for this gathering of nations. You are taken to the site of what will become the West Baray. You stand at its edge, and you cannot comprehend its scale. Marked out on the plain by a series of flags and posts is a perfect colossal rectangle, 5 miles long and over a mile wide. It is not a pond, it is a man-made ocean. Your task is no longer to dig a channel, but to raise a mountain range of earth, a series of dikes nearly 40 feet high that will one day hold back a staggering volume of water. The work here is organized with the same mesmerizing efficiency. The earth excavated from the center of the Baray becomes the material for the dikes. You join a human chain, a living conveyor belt that stretches for more than a mile. A basket of earth is dug and passed to the man beside you, who passes it to the next, and so on and so on. A single continuous stream of mud and stone flowing from the heart of the excavation to the summit of the growing dike. You stand in one place, your body becoming a single repeating pivot. Receive the basket, turn, pass the basket. Receive, turn, pass. The sun crosses the sky, your muscles ache with a deep and satisfying fatigue, but the river of earth never stops flowing. And then you see the strangest and most wonderful part of the construction. As the dike grows higher, another team is brought in to ensure its strength. This team is not made of men. It is a team of elephants. Dozens of them, their great grey hides caked in mud, move with a slow, ponderous grace along the top of the newly laid earth. Their immense weight is the perfect tool for compacting the soil, for pressing the layers of mud and clay together until they are as dense and impermeable as rock. You watch them, these gentle giants, treading back and forth, their movements as rhythmic and patient as your own. Their silent, heavy work is what will make the walls strong enough to hold back a sea, a surprising and elegant solution to a monumental engineering challenge. You understand now, as you pass another basket of earth, that this is more than just a public works project. The Barre is a sacred act. The God King, the Devaraja, is not just building an irrigation system, he is reenacting the creation of the cosmos. In your religion, the world was born when the gods churned the primordial sea of milk to release the elixir of immortality. This Barre, this vast man-made ocean, is a representation of that divine sea. The temples that will one day rise from its center are Mount Meru, the axis of the universe. By bringing water and order to the land, the king demonstrates his divine power, his unity with the gods. Your simple, repetitive labor scoop, lift, walk, tip is not just work. It is a prayer. It is a single, humble stitch in the weaving of a divine cosmic tapestry. Years have passed. The ache in your shoulders from the endless rhythm of the baskets has faded, replaced by the quiet satisfaction of a farmer whose fields are never thirsty. The great construction is finished. The army of workers has dispersed, returning to their villages across the empire, leaving behind a world transformed. You are no longer a visitor on the outskirts of the capital. You are a citizen of Angkor, a resident of the greatest, most intricate hydraulic city the world has ever known. You have moved from being a builder of the paradise to one of its inheritors. Your life is now governed by the gentle, predictable flow of water. You live in a simple wooden house on stilts, not beside a dusty road, but alongside a wide, calm canal that serves as the main thoroughfare for your community. Your day begins not with the sound of a rooster, but with the soft splash of oars and the gentle morning conversations of your neighbors as they guide their small boats to the local market. The canals are the city's veins, carrying not just water, but life, commerce, and communication. Children swim and play in the clean, slow-moving water, their laughter echoing off the stone embankments. Women wash their brightly colored textiles, the vibrant silks a brilliant contrast to the cool green water. The city breathes with the rhythm of the water. From your home, you can see the results of your past labor. The West Barre, the man-made ocean you helped build, lies on the horizon like a vast, silver mirror under the morning sun. It is no longer a dusty construction site, but a tranquil inland sea, its surface perfectly still, its great earthen dikes now covered in a lush carpet of green grass. Its presence is a constant, reassuring promise. It holds the monsoon's memory, a vast liquid treasure held in trust for the dry season. You no longer fear the kite's tail season. You no longer scan the sky with a desperate prayer. The water is no longer a fickle gift from the heavens. It is a reliable servant, commanded by the will of the king and the ingenuity of his engineers. The true miracle is not the Barre itself, but the life it makes possible. You are a rice farmer, and your world has been fundamentally remade. Before, you were lucky to coax a single, meager harvest from the earth, a desperate gamble against drought and flood. Now you are part of a system of agricultural abundance that is the envy of the known world. The cycle is a marvel of simplicity and grace. You watch as the sluice gates of the Great Barre are opened. The water, stored for months, begins its slow, deliberate journey. It flows into the primary canals, the great arteries of the system. From there, it is diverted into a web of smaller and smaller channels, a fractal network that reaches every corner of the immense agricultural plain. Finally, it reaches your fields. You open a small, simple earthen gate in the channel bordering your paddy. and the water flows in, gurgling softly, a cool and welcome blessing. It fills your field to the perfect depth, and then you close the gate. The water has arrived, not by chance but by design. This control allows for something that was once unthinkable: multiple rice harvests a year. As soon as one crop is harvested, the fields can be reflooded, and a new crop can be planted. Historians and agronomists, studying the sediment layers and the sheer scale of the Khmer water network, have concluded that this system could have supported up to 3 rice harvests annually in some areas. This agricultural surplus was the engine of the empire. It fed the armies, the priests, the artists, and the hundreds of thousands of laborers who built the great temples. It was the foundation of wealth, power, and the stability that allowed a magnificent culture to blossom in the middle of the jungle. This abundance feels like a divine gift, and in the world view of your people, it is. The king is not just a ruler, he is the Deva Raja, the God King. His power and legitimacy are directly tied to his ability to control the water and ensure the prosperity of his people. The complex system of reservoirs and canals is a physical manifestation of his divine covenant. When your fields are green and your granaries are full, it is proof that the king is in harmony with the gods, that he is successfully mediating between the celestial and earthly realms. Your loyalty to him is not an abstract political idea. It is a deep, personal gratitude, reinforced with every meal you eat. One day, you travel into the heart of the sacred city, Angkor. You travel by boat, poling your small craft down the canals that are lined with the magnificent stone faces of gods and demons. You pass under high arched bridges and finally emerge into the vast, square moat that surrounds the central temple complex. And here you notice something that casual observers might miss. The great temples themselves, the monumental stone mountains like Angkor Wat and the Bayon, are not separate from the water system. They are an integral part of it. Their massive symmetrical moats are not merely defensive or decorative. They are vast reservoirs in their own right, storing millions of gallons of water. Some modern scholars, using satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar, have proposed a fascinating theory. They argue that the immense weight of these colossal stone temples, built on a foundation of sand and clay, served a hidden hydraulic purpose. The sheer mass of the temple mountains would have helped to stabilize the groundwater table, regulating the saturation of the earth beneath them and preventing the ground from becoming dangerously unstable during the violent swings between the wet and dry seasons. The temple is not just a place of worship sitting in the water. The temple itself is a tool of water management. It is a fusion of the sacred and the practical, an anchor of stone that helps to tame the very earth it is built upon. You look at the reflection of the temple's 5 great towers, shaped like lotus buds, shimmering in the still, dark water of the moat. You see the divine world above and the engineering marvel below, and in their perfect watery reflection, they become one and the same. You realize that in the Khmer mind, there is no separation between religion and science, between a prayer and an engineering diagram. Building a reservoir is a sacred act. Carving a statue of a god is a feat of engineering. The entire kingdom is a single, unified machine, a massive prayer built of stone, earth, and water, all designed to create and sustain a perfect, harmonious paradise. You float in your small boat, a tiny, grateful part of this grand cosmic design, listening to the gentle lapping of the water against the sacred stones. You remain in your boat for a long time, drifting on the still, dark water of the great moat. The sun is high now, and the heat of the day has settled over the city, but here, close to the cool stone and the vast expanse of water, there is a sense of peace. The world is reduced to the gentle plink, plink of water dripping from your oar and the monumental silence of the temple before you. You have seen the practical genius of the water system. You have lived within its life-giving embrace. But now, sitting here at the sacred heart of the empire, you begin to grasp its soul, its deeper and more profound purpose. You look at the long, magnificent causeway leading to the temple's main gate. It is a bridge of stone, a pathway for kings and priests. But it is more than that. The balustrades that line the causeway are not simple railings. They are carved into the immense, powerful bodies of seven-headed serpents, the divine Naga. Their stone bodies are smooth and scaled, their heads rising at the end of the causeway in a magnificent fan-shaped display of divine power. You have seen these figures your whole life, but now you understand their true significance. In your cosmology, the Naga are not monsters. They are the ancient, powerful spirits of the water and the earth. They live in the underworld, the source of all terrestrial wealth, and they are the guardians of the water. This causeway is not just a bridge over a moat, it is the physical body of the Naga, a symbolic bridge connecting the world of men to the world of the gods, guarded by the very spirits of the water itself. This single, powerful image unlocks a deeper understanding. You lift your gaze from the Naga to the vast barre glinting in the distance, and you finally comprehend the ultimate meaning behind its creation. The king did not build these things merely for rice. He built them to remake the universe. You recall the great story, the one carved in infinite detail on the temple walls, the central creation myth of your people, the churning of the sea of milk. You picture the scene in your mind, learned from 1,000 tellings. In the beginning, there was a primordial ocean of milk, a sea of chaos containing the elixir of immortality, the Amrita. To release it, the gods, devas, and the demons, asuras, had to work together. They used the Naga king, Vasuki, as a giant rope, wrapping his body around the cosmic mountain, Mount Mandara. With the gods pulling one end of the serpent and the demons pulling the other, they churned the great ocean for 1,000 years. From this violent, creative act, order was born from chaos. The sun, the moon, and all the treasures of the world emerged. And at the center of it all, the great god Vishnu directed the churning, ensuring the triumph of divine order. Suddenly, the landscape before you snaps into focus with a new, breathtaking clarity. The West Barre is not a reservoir, it is the Sea of Milk. The temple mountain at its center is Mount Mandara, the cosmic axis. The long dikes and causeways are the bodies of the Naga, the divine churning rope. The armies of workers you were once a part of, the thousands of men pulling and tipping baskets of earth, were reenacting the eternal struggle of the gods and demons. And the king, the Devaraja, in commissioning and directing this monumental work, was playing the part of Vishnu himself. He was not just building an irrigation system, he was performing a continuous, kingdom-wide ritual, a literal recreation of the universe, churning the waters of the land to bring forth the elixir of life. Not Amrita, but rice, the food that grants prosperity and stability to his people. This fusion of myth and engineering is the very essence of the Khmer Empire. It is what separates it from all others. The stone and the water are not just materials, they are a language, a sacred text written upon the surface of the earth. As you contemplate this, you remember a strange detail from your days of construction. You recall how the foremen were obsessed not just with the gradient of the canals, but with their precise alignment. The main canals and causeways were not oriented simply for the most efficient water flow, but according to a strict, astronomically determined axis. Some modern researchers, using satellite mapping and complex astronomical software, have put forth a truly astonishing hypothesis: that the entire layout of the major temples and their associated water features at Angkor corresponds to the constellation of Draco as it would have appeared in the heavens during the vernal equinox in the 11th century. If true, it means the hydraulic city was not only a map of a myth, but a map of the heavens themselves, designed to align the kingdom on earth with the cosmic order of the stars, drawing down their celestial power into the very water that flowed through the canals. The water that fills your rice paddy is not just water, it is a piece of the primordial ocean, aligned with the stars, and delivered to you by the divine will of a god king. With this new understanding, you pole your small boat away from the temple and begin your slow journey home. The afternoon sun is beginning its descent, and it paints the surface of the canals in strokes of liquid gold. The city is alive with the gentle rhythms of late afternoon. You see fishermen casting their nets into the smaller ponds that dot the landscape, their movements slow and practiced. You see children leading water buffalo down to the canals for their evening drink, the great, gentle beasts wading into the cool water with sighs of contentment. Everything and everyone is connected by this intricate, shining web of water. You look at the people you pass, at their calm, well-fed faces, and you see the success of the great experiment. The system works. The chaos of the monsoon has been tamed and transformed into a gentle, predictable servant. The brutal cycle of drought and flood has been broken, replaced by a cycle of engineered abundance. The kingdom is not just a place, it is an idea. It is the idea that humanity, through divine inspiration and monumental effort, can impose a perfect, celestial order upon the wildness of the earth. You arrive back at your simple wooden home. You tie your boat to the post and climb the ladder to your veranda. You look out over your own small world, your house, your family, and your fields. The young rice shoots are vibrant, almost impossibly bright green, standing in the still, clear water that was delivered to you this morning. The water is a perfect mirror, and in it you see the reflection of the towering white clouds and the deep blue sky. Heaven and earth join together in your field. You feel a sense of peace so profound it is almost overwhelming. You are not just a farmer, you are a keeper of a small piece of paradise, a guardian of a single perfect note in a grand cosmic symphony. And as the sun sets, turning the water in your fields to a sheet of fire, you know that you are home. The sun has set on the great Khmer kingdom. The canals and the vast barrays are now pools of silver under the moonlight. The chants of the priests in the high temples have fallen silent, and the farmers in their stilt houses are at rest. The great hydraulic machine is quiet, its work for the day complete. Now your own journey is over. It is time to let these images of a waterborne paradise begin to soften and fade in your mind. The oppressive heat of the dry season, the thunderous, life-giving roar of the monsoon, the slow, rhythmic chant of thousands of workers, the cool, silent glide of a boat on a still canal, the magnificent reflection of a stone temple in a vast, dark moat. These are just echoes now, gentle ripples on a quiet pond, dissolving back into the peaceful darkness of your room. The story is told. The water has been tamed, the rice has been harvested, the paradise has been built. All that remains is the profound sense of peace that comes from perfect balance, from a world in complete and harmonious order. Let the quiet of the finished work settle over you. Your only task now is to let your own day's work float away. Feel your body grow heavy and still, your breathing slow and deep, like the great patient tide of the Tonle Sap. There is nothing left to do, only to rest. Sleep well. Good night.